Recording. Hi, good day everyone. Hope all is well and doing well. My name is Fazir and my YouTube name is called Sinkiro Eisen, or you could call it Sinkiro Eisen. Sinkiro Eisen. But yeah, that's just something that popped up, and that's the name I'll be using for this YouTube channel. And yeah, by the way, the reason why I'm recording right now is because I want to improve my inventory, so to say, when it comes to recording gameplay. So this is my next step as Revolution. So yeah, so today I will be starting off a new game, and I've recently finished the previous game called Need for Speed Heat. Sorry. I hope that the viewers, you who all are watching, I hope that you enjoyed watching the walkthrough, and I've tried my best to balance out the situation where the campaign is actually short. When a person thinks about it, it's actually short. So what I've done was I balanced the campaign that was short. I balanced it out with doing the rep level, maxing out the rep level, so that the game, or the completion, could look more satisfied in a way, I could say. Let's just say I've tried to balance the game, the story and the reputation. I tried to make it satisfying, tried to fulfill it. So that was my intention when it came to play Need for Speed Heat. And so far I'm trying to see if whatever. Okay, I'm just gonna cut out that part right now. So anyways, yeah, so I tried my best, Need for Speed Heat. Let's just say Need for Speed Heat's campaign or story is very short. There's not much to, how can I say, like, extend its timeline, but what I've done was I brought balance to that. And how did I bring balance to that is I've taken the one side as story and the one side as reputation. So in the game there is a reputation where let's just say there's a mechanical reputation where the car needs to meet the requirements to enter or to participate in these story or campaign events. So what I've done was I thought to myself that it would be best if I could just level the car up to its maximum potential and have the maximum potential meet the ending of the story or the campaign. that was my intention from the start, to play this game, because I have played this game before, but this is my first time recording gameplay and just wanting to do something different. So with that being said, I'm sure that I will try to continue to learn the ropes of balancing the reputation and the story, because it will definitely fulfill. This is only one way to fulfill a game being played from the start to the finish. Fulfilled meaning like being satisfied, claiming the game to be worthy in its value, worthy in having to grind, you know. When I think about grinding, I think about the other game, Test Drive Unlimited 2. That game is really on grinding. Like, in order to earn cars, earn houses, that reputation cost grinding. Because the only way to level up in that game and succeed is to buy a car, do events, start or enter championships with different classes. And the thing I like about that game with the championship events is that the payouts are so huge, but it's like a pattern. It starts off small with the first attempt, and as a person extend the gameplay and find out that there are more championship events available according to their classes. So with each class represents their own reward, and I like that system. You know, that system is so meant to be for those who are willing to put in the time, put in the effort to adapt to that kind of gameplay, especially when it comes to the car's individual behavior with steering, how the car handles, and yeah, so that is also important to notice about playing car games. So, because I also enjoy playing car games. Car games is a genre that I enjoy the most, but I also do like other games. Not to say that I am picking out favorites or anything, but in general I just enjoy playing car games because I just have a feeling about it, you know, a feeling where it brought me tears, you know. So that might be something that I have fulfilled and haven't acknowledged yet. So it's a good thing to have such experience and love with it, and it also creates memories at the end of the day. So yeah, so like I said, with Test Drive Unlimited 2, the gameplay is and the grind is very satisfying, is acceptable. It's like you start off small, and once you enter every championship and win every championship, you start to see a huge amount in value, and you'll also get the opportunity to buy property and own it, and you'll start to notice that at each progression or at each event you're going to have to buy a new car, either at a used dealership or at a official dealership. So there are two options to go with, having to choose your next car. So yeah, The game is very satisfying. I know I'm speaking a lot about the game because it's really worth it. Yeah. So Test Drive Unlimited 2 is really worth playing if you really want to grind or looking for a grind. That's the only game I would recommend to someone else who would be willing to test its grind. And to be honest, I got frustrated. That game is frustrating, especially the time races, time trial or time attack races, and the racing school where one has to pass the license. So that's also very nerve-wracking for me in my experience. But in the end, I would still say it's worth it, because without this license, it won't be possible to enter the championships. The only thing I don't like about the racing school is that with each success, maybe for example there's maybe like 10 tests that you have to pass in order to get the license. So in the beginning, I think like so yeah, sorry for that. So yeah, for example, like I was saying, for each okay, so for I think in the beginning, then it starts off with the car's mechanics, basically, where, let's just say, let's just put it this way. So in the beginning, you'll probably notice how the car feels and drives and steers, right? Perhaps you've played the game using full assistance or without assistance, right? It's basically like traction control and stability control, right? That's the terminology used in other racing games. So in the beginning, with the first attempt of doing the license, the first test would probably start off with the car having full assistance, and as the person reaches in between maybe like the fourth or the fifth test, you start noticing that the car power slides from the starting line. So in the beginning it only just pulls away with a short power slide, but in the middle, between fourth or fifth test, the car starts to power slide at a longer duration. So that is the system when it comes to playing the doing the license, to pass out for the license. So at the end, I think the assistant is totally disabled, and with each 2 to 3 tests within the capacity, normally there will be 2 or 3 cars will be given, and you have to pass these tests with each individual car with a given how can I say, with the given settings or setup. That's just how the license system works in the game. So yeah, for me, I remembered doing this one license for, I think it was for A3, I think A4 or A3, where it's more of, I could say, more modern, doing the modern cars, having to earn the modern cars, like a Dodge Viper, for example. I remember having that car, using that car in the license, and I had a very hard time to complete the last event, where I've been in a situation that I've been in the situation where I have to race on this track and I have to beat the time basically, and there's a penalty that's also been, there is a penalty, and this penalty, the purpose of this penalty is to deduct. It all has to do with time. The penalty deducts the race time on the track. So for each attempt where the car goes off the track, the penalty gets the penalty activates and it accumulates the time being wasted basically. So that is something to keep in mind. That is very important about these kind of races, because those races are the most frustrating ones. And I remember doing that event, with the Dodge Viper, and I was probably doing that one last event for probably more than an hour, and I finally came to just realize that whenever I'm doing corners, I'm trying my best to free flow without acceleration, just turning the car in one direction. It's like coming from the outside going into the inside of the corner. Sometimes I get it right, sometimes I fail, but it's fine. So I've also noticed the game's mechanic where the car just starts to slide, and that slide reminds me of Need for Speed 2015, where it's called the Scandinavian flick. So that is something I've noticed about test drive when I was playing test drive on it. So I use that knowledge and apply it to this game as well, and somehow I have like succeeded in a way, but there is just some turns or corners where there are small little humps, and when a person passes those humps, the car tends to go airborne. So when the car goes airborne, it loses its control, and when the car lands again, it might end smooth, it might end ugly, but that's just how the game is. That's why it's important for me. Resolution is important so that the person can see the visual of the road, so yeah, that's important. Yeah, so what made it more difficult was that now that the car has no full assistance, the car always power slides or spins in first and second gear. So when I reach a corner at a lower gear, perhaps like a tight corner that has to go into first gear to succeed, and then once I start to pull away from that corner, the car spins out in first gear, and then I have to leave the accelerator for a moment so that the car can just find its balance. It finds its way into second gear. So it finds its way into second gear when the car starts to find its balance. So yeah, so that was also another problem. So only in second and third gear I was able to get the car moving straight and then the car to find its balance. But once the car reaches in first gear in the corner and start to throttle afterwards, the car just keeps on sliding and spinning out. So that was my next focus, is to change the transmission from automatic to manual and see what results I would get. for attempting those corners once again. So yeah, that's important. So yeah, so I came up with this thought where I just said to myself, I've been playing the game on automatic transmission, so what if I change the transmission to manual? Maybe that might help, you know. So I tried it, and eventually after a few attempts I started to notice something. The difference is when it comes to cornering, especially those corners where the car goes airborne. What I normally do is I brake before the time and let the car go a certain speed around the corner, just so I can find my balance again on the road. So what I noticed was that with automatic, I'm always going like maybe third gear or fourth gear top speed, right? And when I keep the car in that same gear, for example like fourth gear on the corner, I always tend to lose balance and the car starts to slip and slide, right? So I tried, the next method is to brake a bit and let the car automatically shift down into a lower gear so I can take a corner, right? So that kind of helped, but I thought to myself, why don't I just change the transmission to manual and see what happens? So I tried it out and eventually I managed to succeed. And with that being said, I am happy to know about changing transmissions from automatic to manual. So changing the transmission helped me a lot, and I finally managed to pass the license, and there onwards I could purchase my new car or my next car for the next championship events. So yeah, that was the situation with the license, you know, and I'm happy that I could figure out something and not having to struggle for another hour, because that last test was all about time, you know. I had to beat the time and I couldn't afford to waste time, and I couldn't afford to let penalties engage into the situation. So those were the three things that stood out for me that was important. So yeah, that's my reason and my experience with playing Test Drive Unlimited 2. So yeah, I know I've mentioned before in the video that, or in the beginning I've mentioned that I was playing Need for Speed Heat, but actually I'm doing this video right now and I might do the last few parts of the game, recording myself, you know, because this is my next step into doing these gameplay walkthroughs. So yeah, so I will be doing those last few parts and finishing the game off. Hopefully this is the kind of content I want to make, you know, because as a child I mostly remembered that I always wanted to have a console, you know. That was always something I wanted, and that is something I never had, you know, never could afford. The only gift I've received from my parents was a TV game. Some of you might know what it is. So that was the only gift I received as a child. So my days of playing Super Mario Brothers, Tank, Toonby, Load Runner, Aladdin, Kung Fu, Burger Time, those were the games that I used to play, you know. So yeah, so now that I'm at the age of 33, I am fully capable of having my own right now. At the moment, I don't have or own a console, but I am using a computer because as a child I remembered there was a time when I used to live with my guardians and they had a computer back then, and the only game I could play or really enjoyed was playing the Sega Rally. That was the only game I really enjoyed. The one with the Toyota and with a Subaru and a Mitsubishi with all those vinyls, those original vinyls, stickers on it. Yep, that was the only game I really found interesting. There was other games, but I didn't really bother that much playing the other games that were on the computer. So from that time, that was the only thing that was meant for me, Even though I had friends that had consoles, that was PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 era I'm talking about. I never knew Xbox existed, Only PlayStation existed in my reality or in my world as a child. And computers now. Those are the only devices. So yeah. So now I own a computer and I enjoy having a computer because it's, how can I say, versatile. And I can do a lot with a computer. So yeah. That being said, having a computer is fun because it is not limited like a console. It can expand its environment by upgrading its hardware or changing its hardware. Yeah, I've recently learned that a computer can be built with aesthetics. That's like having the PC to look wow and like glowy and flashy. That is the aesthetic side of building a PC, and the other side is just normal, like, how can I say, like, I can't find a word for it, but I could say basic, or like sleeper. I could say sleeper, or I could say I'm looking for a word for it, but I just can't. Okay, but anyways, my computer I have only has like 2 RGB front fans, and those are the only lights or aesthetic I have built in the case, basically. So that's all there is to it. I'm not really on the aesthetic side of things, but I do find it attractive, but on the other side I do realize that it comes with a price to pay, and with a concern of knowing that those lights and flashy things cost power as well, like it draws also power. Like the same goes for the other components that are in the case as well, each component draws power, so that is something to think about, and so my side of just having 2 RGB fans as intake, it's fine. I don't really care about how the PC looks when it comes to flashy things. I just like a simple build, a build where it has enough airflow and it has the power to play games, the power to have performance, the power to enjoy every game. That's just me on my take, having a PC or owning a PC. So that's me. So yeah, so I'm happy to have a PC, and I don't think I will be owning a console one day, because what's the use of owning a console when I'm already adapted to the PC environment? So yeah, that's just my side of the story. Yeah. So what's next? What's next? After I'm done playing Need for Speed Heat, I will be doing Need for Speed Unbound, the story, and then afterwards I might do Need for Speed 2015, but I was thinking of doing the the prestige mode, of 2015. But I realized doing that prestige mode is really hard, I'm not going to lie, it's really hard, it's tough, it's annoying, it's frustrating, to beat the time of a race, to score the highest drift, all those stuff. It's very time consuming. So I had a tough time doing that. So I thought to myself, this is not going to work out, and I just left it. I'll keep that to myself. I'll progress with that with myself, and not struggle and put too much time in to record that. So yeah, so I think I'm just going to do Need for Speed Unbound next after Need for Speed Heat, and then I will change the genre to something else. I have a few games in mind that I would like to play. So yeah, I'm trying my best to be collective and own it, even though it's just license, but I just see it as owning it from now on. Naming it to be digital only. So yeah, so far I've made a collection of buying games from Steam, and all these games will be played. I will use all these games and record them. This is my attempt to make content and see where it goes, because yeah. So what's next? I don't know. So far, I hope each and everyone that have watched all my videos, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to bring more gameplay and just enjoy and do my best. Yeah, so what's my reason for doing this? Well, at first I just saw it as an opportunity to have fun, and express my fun into this, so yeah.